child, I always dreamed of owning all different kinds of animals. I would beg my mom to get us like a monkey or an Arctic fox or whatever I saw on Animal Planet that day. It was always a different request, but an extreme one at that. And I knew it wouldn't happen, but always hoped for it. What I didn't realize then was there was reasons why people don't own exotic animals as pets. So today I'm going to talk about how the exotic pet trade is a growing problem, and why exotic animals should not personally be kept as pets, and because of the risks to human health and safety and the cruelty involved in keeping such animals in unnatural environments. The exotic pet trade is something glamorized, but in reality is a tragic thing. According to the Humane Society of the U.S., the exotic pet trade is a multi-billion-dollar business in the U.S., second only to drug and weapons on the black market. It's a $5 billion business in the U.S. alone. So it's been going on for decades, and it seems that entertainment fads decide the animal trends. In the 80s, green turtles grew in popularity thanks to the popular show Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And it might seem cool to have those kind of animals because it's not a common thing and they're just cool, but it's cruel to the animals. Okay. Just to show how largely of a problem it is, it's estimated that the number of captive tigers in the U.S. is at least 5,000. Most are kept by not accredited zoos, but by private owners. And there are only about 3,200 wild tigers left in the whole entire world. It's kind of pathetic that the wild tigers in the whole entire world is a lot more drastic than the amount of captive tigers in only the U.S., not even accounting for the rest of the world. Although baby animals are cute and may not seem like a hassle to take care of, it doesn't stay that way. They require special care, housing, diet, and maintenance that the average person cannot provide. When in hands of private individuals, animals suffer due to poor care. Some private owners like to justify the reason that they have it is because to raise them and later in life let them back into the wild, but most exotic animals kept as pets never learn how to survive in the wild, making it impossible to be released and join wild populations. In fact, studies have shown that wild members of species are often less likely to mate with captive members, so it completely debunks the idea of repopulation via captive breeding. There's also an important environmental factor to consider. Removing wild animals from their natural habitats like the rainforest or African plains negatively affects the delicate ecosystems, which according to the ASPCA rely on those to further the life cycle of plants and keep animal population in check. Florida is a good example of that. When you think of Florida, I always think of Florida as a different, kind of its own thing in the U.S. because it has just an abundant abundant species of animals. There are multiple species that inhabit the state that were not there originally. The Burmese python is one example. What started out as an owner, must have been like an owner that had one of those, and it got too big to take care of, released it into the wild, and now there are, and turned into a vast population of them. Over 200 of them have been caught in the Everglades, and park rangers say they put a damper on the ecosystem it's in because it's been killing off all the animals there. Another example is the red lionfish off of the coast of Florida. A local aquarium was said to have let 6 of them free into the ocean, and through mating have built up a population. Seeing that they don't have a natural predator above them in the area, they aren't killed off, but instead have seriously altered the fish population below, or amount of fish below them. These animals also pose a risk to the owners, neighbors, and the community around them. One of the risks is disease. According to the Humane Society of the United States, all reptiles and amphibians carry salmonella, and more than 74,000 cases of salmonella poisoning are linked to these pets each year in the U.S. alone. Exotic pets like monkeys and African rodents often carry viruses like herpes B, monkeypox, and rabies, all of which are highly infectious and potentially fatal to humans. Although most exotic animals are territorial and require group interaction, an exotic pet is typically isolated and spends the majority of his or her day in a small enclosure and able to roam and express natural behaviors freely. These animals are seen as a time bomb because they can lash out on their owners. If these animals are to escape, there's no saying what could happen because they're not used to the habitat around them or the socialization in the city. For example, in 2011, a town called Zanesville experienced an animal massacre. After an owner left the cages to his animals open, 19 Bengal tigers, 17 lions, 8 bears, 3 mountain lions, 2 wolves, and a baboon escaped and roamed the city, terrorizing it. The owner was kind of mentally insane, but after first attempts of tranquilizing them, it wasn't enough to suppress the large animals, and the only quick solution they could decide on was to just shoot them before they could kill anyone else. So in the end, 49 animals were shot and killed, and it's kind of tragic because Bengal tigers are endangered, so just to kill off 19 of them, that's unnecessary. So all in all, exotic animals just shouldn't be seen as possessions, and they should be treated with the utmost care, utmost respect, and the exotic pet trade should just function there.
I was like, what kind of animals they are.
Courtney, you have some impressions that you could share with us?
Yes. Okay. So at the beginning, I didn't really hear a attention device, but the thesis was clear about owning exotic animals and how it was bad. I heard you say the Humane Society and the ASPCA, but I feel like there were a couple of things in there that I didn't know where they came from, but the information was good nonetheless. You were reading your notes a little often, but I thought you had a lot of good points. One that I wrote down specifically was releasing domesticated animals into the wild, you know, and I've heard that too, so that I think gave you credibility because I had heard that myself too. You have a couple nervous movements, kicking your foot and like crossing it and then like kind of putting your hands to your face, but that was kind of set to the side. Overall, I thought you had a lot of good information and you spoke clear and it was easy to hear you, and I thought it was a very interesting topic.
Okay. I'm going to disagree a little bit. I thought you had a very clear attention device at the beginning. You had that story about, being a little girl and wanting to have every wild animal that you saw on the TV. And I thought, I understand where that was going. And when you transitioned to your purpose statement, I thought that was pretty clear. Look, that's not necessarily what people ought to be doing. In fact, it's really a dangerous or problematic thing when people, indulge in such childish, indulgences. I guess it's a little circular, but that's a good way of saying it. And I thought there was a pretty good transition to the topic. I thought you had a clear setup of the structure and the purpose of the speech. I thought that was solid. In the body of the speech, I do think your signpost on the first point was solid, and then after that it needed to be a little bit stronger because it just felt like, I know that you have points that you're hitting there, but they aren't particularly distinct, and it sometimes just feels like you're running through information, and the idea here is to help your listeners keep track of information and remind them of where you are at any given point. And it's not that you didn't have good information. You did have good information. It's not that it wasn't relevant to those points. But once in a while, we just need kind of a wave to people, say, hey, here's where we are. Wake up, pay attention to what's going on here. And I think that will make it a little bit easier to hold on to the information that you're talking about. There were a couple of places where I do think that you needed some citation. For instance, the information about the number of tigers in the wild versus those that are in captivity. The examples of the animals suffering. You did give us the ASPCA on that. I wanted to know a little bit more about some of those animals that have entered our environment that are problematic. And dangerous, not just because there are tigers running loose, but we had pythons in the Everglades and they're establishing colonies. And you say, and that's bad for the environment there because it's killing stuff. And I'm going, okay, so what's it killing? Alligators, birds. Is there some harm to the environment that's occurring because of that? There's going to be some imbalance in the ecosystem because these dangerous foreign species have been introduced into that environment. And you mentioned the red lionfish, for instance, and I'm going, okay, so what's happened with the red lionfish? So we got a whole bunch of red lionfish that are apparently established some colony there off of the coast of Florida. And why is that a bad thing? What's happened? Is the local, I don't know what, purple Louisiana fish, been exterminated as a result? I mean, I don't know what it is. You say, so it's having this impact on it, but I don't know what that is, and I could use some information on those sorts of things. The story about the animal slaughter was pretty dramatic. I thought that was interesting that they had to hunt down and kill all those animals, and I think that illustrates the point that says, look, people can't handle these sorts of things, and when a problem comes up, then it really ends up being bad for the animals and for the humans in the area as well. I thought that was pretty well illustrated. Delivery issues, a lot of note reading, a lot of looking down. I'm going to agree with Courtney. I mean, you've got some of those bad habits. You're crossing your leg, you're shifting around, and at the end of the speech, it just looks like you bailed out on the presentation. It's like, I've lost all faith in what I'm doing. I'm going to drop my voice. I'm going to drop my eye contact, my body, and I'm going to exit stage left. And you haven't even finished talking, and you're already running off the stage. That doesn't inspire confidence. So you should be. I've made this argument. I've told you important things. So we ought to really be doing something about this particular problem. There you go. All right. Thank you.